Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I wanted to talk about something here that I mentioned yesterday, and it was regarding Carol, and that is whether or not Carol is actually in Spain and or France right now, because there is that possibility. There are some issues, I guess, that sort of come up. There's some arguments against this, but there are also some arguments for it. So I'm going to talk about all that here in this video. So before going any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. There's going to be videos all week long. I will be doing a Q&A on Wednesday as well, so definitely if you want to take part in that Q&A, go follow the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. And yeah, I'm excited for episode 2. It seems like a lot of people right now are so excited for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon because episode 1 kind of blew everyone away. Honestly, it was kind of surprising to see how great the story was and actually how important Daryl Dixon is just sort of in general to the Walking Dead universe. It kind of came out of nowhere. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content. But let's get into this here. So the question I have for you guys is, do you think Carol is in Spain and or France? The reason why I say both is because that is where the explosion on the ship happened. Like we hear, and I guess I should warn you that this will contain spoilers for episode 1 of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, but at the very end, in the ending scene of episode 1, we learned that Daryl jumped off the ship at some point below Portugal and Spain. And obviously that's sort of, I guess, where some prisoners escaped, I'm guessing. But Daryl for sure escaped at that point. And then obviously at some point got tied to a boat and then ended up in France, right? And the reason why I'm bringing up Carol is because there's a line in the very, ending scene where the captain actually mentions that there were prisoners, right? Obviously there was others, right? And that is something that I will say is kind of interesting. There is that aspect to it as well. Like, they're referring to Daryl as a prisoner. So that's a little interesting. How did he get there? When you look at the trailer, the reason why this sort of comes up and why it gets very, very interesting is when you just think of the idea of Carol going to France for season 2, right? When I think of that, it's like the only way Carol would get there if she's not already there is she would just take another ship over, obviously, right? So for me, I mean, maybe that's possible. Maybe that's a thing that happens, but it's something that also, Madame Genet also mentions in that scene there that it took 3 years to get the ship running, and then all of a sudden this happens, right? And so to me, it's like, I don't know if this is their only ship. Maybe they do have other ships and she's just kind of referencing just this ship in general. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I think it makes a lot of sense if you're going to have Carol on the show and she's in France as well, that she was also on that ship. And so the trailer for the whole general season here, because I noticed with Dead City, they did the same thing after episode 1. They sort of revealed a general trailer as to what to expect for the season. So I think after episode 2, the trailer shown will probably just be for episode 3. And I'll talk about episode 2 most likely in my next video, which may be coming out later on today, or that might be tomorrow. And because we do have some images, there's some stuff there, and we'll talk about the storyline for episode 2. But there's this shot right here of Daryl, and he is talking on the phone to somebody here. And he actually says he's in Maine off the coast, and he'll be arriving somewhere in the next week kind of thing. And so I don't know what he's referencing there in the sense of, where is he going to arrive in the next week? But he is off of Maine. And first of all, where that does get very interesting, and I talked about this already in my Ending Explained video and how that connects to Rick, but we saw in the Tales of the Walking Dead episode, the character in that episode found the Triple P card, and he was actually in Maine. So this just gets very, very interesting because that Triple P card kind of has a connection with the Civic Republic because it was shown around the time that Jadis was introduced, and that was sort of when the CRM, that logo was introduced and all of that, right? So there's somewhat a connection here. There seems to be something happening here, and so Daryl obviously found clues here. Like, obviously him going out there looking for Rick, he came across something. Like, he actually found something that is somewhat leading him to Rick, but at some point, obviously, things kind of went wrong, and he found a different aspect to this whole situation, right? So I think if he is in Maine, he obviously is finding a lot more proof here, and I think it makes sense that he told Carol that I'm here. And I think the person he's talking to in this scene right here is Carol. I think it just makes a lot of sense that he is talking to Carol here, and he's telling her, like, I'm here, I'm doing this or whatever, and this is just sort of where I'm going to be. And so the question, I guess, is Carol on the boat as well, right? Because the ship's massive. She could be on another part of the ship, and he's just sort of calling to that part of the ship. She could be really anywhere else, I guess. And I guess he just called her because she was at the Commonwealth, I'm assuming. And so he had her number kind of thing. I think it makes sense that he is for sure talking to Carol. Like, I think just giving that type of information, Daryl doesn't talk to anyone really. I think it makes a lot of sense because Carol's going to be there in season 2 that he told her that, right? Because in general, Carol needs to get to France somehow for season 2. So she needs to know this information. So seeing a scene like this, hearing that dialogue, it makes a lot of sense. It's really cool. And I'm just kind of wondering if Carol is in Spain or France. I just think that it makes a lot of sense, in terms of the idea that them being on the same ship going over, it's a little more realistic, unless there's just a lot of ships that are going back and forth. Like, that is also possible, right? Like, that's a possibility. But I just like the idea that there was just this one ship that they took over and they were prisoners. Carol might have been on another part of the ship kind of thing. And when things started to go wrong, obviously Daryl got, separated, and Carol, maybe she was still on that ship. And it might be one of those things where Daryl doesn't necessarily know that Carol's there, right? Because maybe Carol was going after Daryl because of whatever, and she never jumped off the ship, right? But she's concerned about Daryl and where he is kind of thing. And so now Carol is somewhere in Spain and or France and is actually looking for him right now. I think that also could add up. Now, there are some arguments against this, which I do get, right? Like, why isn't Daryl as concerned about Carol, right? Like, in general, if Carol was in Spain or France, I feel like Daryl would be kind of concerned. Like, where is she, right? Like, if he knew that she was on the ship and something happened to the ship, I think he would be a lot more concerned as to what happened to her. And he doesn't really seem to be that bothered in general. It seems like, for him, he believes that he's sort of the only one here, right? And that's kind of the thing, though. Like, that's the one part out of all of this where I'm like, okay, so this idea might not be exactly true. But the thing is, too, is when Carol does show up there in France in season 2, or maybe at the end here of season 1, like the finale, Daryl's not going to know about it. Daryl's not going to expect it. He's going to be so like, wait, what? How'd you get here? Right. And that's the thing. Like, that's the part about it where I just feel like it's not that realistic. Like, if she just took another ship across, I'm just like, I guess that could be an explanation, but I like the idea that she was also on that ship. And so I think in order for this to work, she would have to have been on that ship secretly, and Daryl most likely couldn't have known that, right? So we'll have to wait and see. Just that line that he said he's in Maine off the coast and he'll be arriving somewhere in the next week. That line right there, I think, did Daryl on that ship when he was, just off the coast in Maine, did he actually arrive back to Maine or to the port there somewhere, get off the ship and then leave kind of thing? Or was he more referencing that he was going to be in France in the next week? Like, I don't know how long it takes, to take a ship from Maine all the way to France. Like, does it take a week? Does it take a few weeks? Does it take a couple days? I have no idea. So that's one of those things that I'm just kind of wondering right now. Like, I think they're going to be setting up Carol here for sure. Carol's return is for sure happening. And this scene right here where Daryl is talking to somebody on the phone, I do for sure believe that this is Carol. It's just, is Carol in Spain or France? That's sort of the question that, I guess we're just going to have to kind of wonder about for a bit here. And I'm excited, though, for where they're going. Like, I'm really excited for Daryl Dixon. I think this show is going to be probably one of the best shows that have come out in a very long time. The story feels so much more important than anything that we got really in a very long time. And I'm including, the last couple of seasons of The Walking Dead. It's honestly something that I wasn't expecting. I really was not expecting any of this at all. Even watching the episode, I was just like, okay, this is pretty good. And then that ending scene happened and I was just like, whoa, what is all of this? And it was just so much to just sort of sort through and break down that it really does set up this show in a really great way. And I can't wait for the next episode. I can't wait to see where the story's going to go. I imagine episode 2 and 3 could slow down a little bit, but there could be an advanced walker that shows up out of nowhere. And there's also going to be some stuff with Madame Genet and Caudron as well that, they're going to get into some stuff where we might see some experiments happening and all that. So even though Daryl might not be involved in fighting an advanced walker or this and that, we're still going to see those experiments and stuff like that happen, right? So there's going to be a lot of stuff that they're doing here that's really exciting. So I can't wait to see Carol return. You know, there's a part of me that believes she's going to show up in the very, very ending scene or final scene of the finale. I don't know if I'm right on that. I really don't. Obviously, I'm really just guessing, but they've been filming season 2 for a while, and there's just a part of me that believes that they filmed a scene there for Carol returning, and it is literally a scene probably going to be shown in episode 2 in season 2. And they're probably just going to have it sort of connected to the ending of season 1. Like the story's going to end in some way where Daryl's doing this or that, and then Carol just shows up, and it's going to be sort of a post-credit scene or just final scene type of thing, right? Just if you think of the final season of The Walking Dead, Rick and Michonne were there. They weren't really connected in any way to the story. I could see Carol showing up in the same way. So I'm very excited. I can't wait. But what did you think of episode 1? What are your predictions for episode 2? And how do you think Carol is going to show up on this show? And also, do you think that she's already there? Do you think she was on the ship? Or do you think she's going to take another ship across? Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.